Head. What did ancient humans do when it rained all day? Imagine that you have not eaten for 2 full days. Yesterday, you located a herd, you followed its tracks, studied its movements. Head, and memorized the safest route to reach it. All you need to do now is leave camp and begin the hunt, but just as you prepare to move, the rain starts. This is not a gentle shower. Head. It is a violent, wind-driven downpour that soaks everything within minutes. It continues through the afternoon, throughout the night, and into the next morning without showing any sign of stopping. Head. Now the hunt is impossible. The tracks you followed yesterday have disappeared beneath flowing mud. Visibility is poor, and traveling barefoot across wet, rocky ground could easily cause a serious injury. Head. In the ancient world, even a badly twisted ankle could prevent someone from hunting, escaping predators, or keeping up with the group. The river beside your camp is rising. Water is beginning to creep toward the shelter. Head. Worst of all, the fire, the one source of warmth, protection, light, and cooked food, is beginning to weaken. You are not simply bored, you are trapped for most of human history. Head. Rain was not a minor inconvenience, it could quickly become a survival crisis. Yet what ancient humans did during those long, stormy days may have been just as important as anything they accomplished beneath a clear sky. Head. Welcome to Mr. Bip, where we explore the untold realities of ancient human life and uncover how our ancestors survived a world without modern technology. If you enjoy discovering the hidden story of humanity. Head. Subscribe to the channel and join us on this journey into the ancient past. Today, rain usually means closing the windows, making a warm drink, finding a blanket, and relaxing in front of a screen. Head. The sound of water against the roof can make a modern home feel peaceful. It may calm you so completely that you fall asleep before finishing whatever you were watching, but 50,000 years ago. Head. That same comforting sound could warn of several dangers approaching at once. The first danger was cold. A wet body loses heat far more quickly than a dry one, without waterproof clothing or a secure shelter. Head. Hours of rain in cool conditions could reduce a person's body temperature to a dangerous level. Even in parts of Africa, nights during the wet season can become surprisingly cold. Head. Especially at higher elevations. For ancient people wearing simple hides or limited clothing, staying dry was not about comfort, it was about remaining alive and capable of moving. Head. The second danger is flooding. Caves and rock shelters offered protection from wind and rain, but many were located near rivers or at the bottom of hillsides during a powerful storm. Head. Water could suddenly rush into these places. Archaeologists have discovered layers of flood sediment inside caves once occupied by humans. In some locations, those layers suggest that water entered while people were actively using the shelter. Head. Certain caves appear to have been abandoned afterward, perhaps because the danger had become impossible to ignore. The third danger came from animals. Humans were not the only creatures searching for dry ground. Head. Predators and prey also moved toward caves and rock overhangs when storms covered the landscape. At several archaeological sites, evidence of humans and large cats has been found within the same occupation layers. Head. In some cases, marks on human remains are consistent with attacks by powerful predators such as leopards. Rain therefore did more than make the world wet, it compressed the landscape. Head. Humans, predators, and prey were pushed toward the same limited number of protected places. In the middle of that crisis, one responsibility became more important than almost anything else. Head. Keeping the fire alive. Humans were controlling fire hundreds of thousands of years ago. Evidence from Sibudu Cave in Israel dates back roughly 400,000 years, while traces from Wonderwerk Cave in South Africa may be close to 1 million years old. Head. However, maintaining an existing fire and creating a new one from nothing are very different abilities. For much of prehistory, starting fire reliably may have been difficult. Head. If a group allowed its flames to disappear during a storm, relighting them could require valuable time, dry materials, or a burning ember carried from another location. Head. Some ancient communities transported smoldering material wrapped in leaves or placed inside tinder fungus. Certain fungi can hold a glowing ember for hours, functioning almost like a natural fire carrier. Head. Otzi the Iceman, who lived more than 5,000 years ago, carried fire-making materials in his equipment. His kit included flint, pyrite, tinder fungus, and additional plant material for catching sparks. Head. Even at that relatively recent point in prehistory, fire was important enough to justify carrying specialized backup supplies. When heavy rain arrived, protecting the flame would have been an immediate priority. Head. The group might move the fire deeper into a cave, shield it with hides or branches, and feed it slowly. Too little fuel would allow it to die, but piling on damp wood could bury the flame beneath smoke and moisture. Head. People learned where dry fuel could still be found. Dead branches beneath the thick canopy of evergreen trees might remain protected from the rain. Wet logs could be split to reach the drier wood inside. Head. Birch bark was especially valuable because its natural oils allow it to ignite even when the surface is damp. During a long storm, one person may have spent hours beside the fire. Head. Guarding it and adding fuel at exactly the right moment. That task may sound simple, but the entire group depended on it. The fire provided heat during cold nights. It illuminated the shelter. Head. Kept many predators at a distance, cooked food, dried clothing, and created a central place where people could work and communicate. Allowing it to go out was not merely careless. Head, it could place everyone in danger. Suppose the fire is now secure and the shelter is mostly dry. The rain continues and nobody can safely leave. What happens next? People begin making things. Head, archaeological caves and rock shelters are filled with evidence of tool production. Stone tools have been discovered in every stage of creation, surrounded by thousands of small flakes produced while shaping rock. Head, these fragments are often concentrated in particular areas, exactly where someone might have sat close to the fire and worked for several hours. But stone tools were only part of the story. Head, at Blombos Cave in South Africa, archaeologists discovered an ochre-processing workshop dating back approximately 100,000 years. Abalone shells were used as containers. Ochre was ground into powder. Head, and bone tools helped mix or apply the material. This was more than an improvised reaction to immediate danger. It was organized production. Someone collected the ingredients. Head, prepared the equipment, followed a process, and manufactured pigment with a purpose. Long periods inside a shelter would have offered the perfect opportunity for such careful work. Head. Bone needles provide another example. Early specimens dating back tens of thousands of years have been found in Africa, with later examples appearing across Europe and Asia. A bone needle is a delicate object. Head. It must be shaped precisely, smoothed carefully, and given a tiny eye without breaking. Nobody creates such a tool while fleeing a predator or chasing an animal across open ground. Head. It is the kind of work performed while sitting safely, concentrating, and having time to spare. Rainy days may have given people exactly that time. Then there was string, at the Neanderthal site of Abri-du-Maras in France. Head. Researchers discovered a tiny piece of twisted plant fiber dating back roughly 40,000 to 50,000 years. It is among the oldest direct pieces of evidence showing that prehistoric humans understood how to twist fibers into cord. Head. At Hohlfels Cave in Germany, archaeologists found a carefully carved ivory object with holes and spiral grooves. Dating back approximately 35,000 to 40,000 years, it may have been used to twist plant fibers into rope. Head. Someone did not merely make rope. That person created a specialized tool to make the process more effective. Producing cordage is slow and repetitive. It demands patience, careful hands. Head, and a great deal of time, making it an ideal task during bad weather. Rope transformed human technology. It allowed people to tie shelter frames together, attach stone points to wooden shafts. Head, repair equipment, carry supplies, create nets, and build traps. Much of early technology depended on the ability to connect separate objects. Without string, many inventions would have been far more difficult to create. Head. We cannot know whether cordage was first invented during a rainstorm, but it is easy to imagine how days spent inside a shelter encouraged this kind of patient experimentation. Head. Ancient people also worked to make their shelters more comfortable. At Sibudu Cave in South Africa, archaeologists found plant bedding dating back approximately 77,000 years. Layers of grasses. Head. Sedges and other vegetation had been arranged to form sleeping surfaces. Some layers contained aromatic plants with natural insect-repelling properties. The bedding was occasionally burned and replaced. Head, helping remove pests and keep the living area cleaner. These people were not merely hiding inside a cave. They were organizing their surroundings, solving problems, and turning a temporary refuge into something resembling a home. Head. But tools, rope, clothing, and bedding were practical creations. What came next belonged to a different part of human life. Art. Chauvet Cave in southern France contains paintings made more than 30,000 years ago. Head. Lions, horses, rhinoceroses, bears, and other animals appear across its walls with remarkable attention to movement and anatomy. Some animals seem to be running. Others turn their heads or stand with their muscles under tension. Head. The artists were not making random marks. They had observed these creatures repeatedly, remembered their forms, and recreated them in darkness using firelight. Chauvet was not an isolated case. Head. Caves such as Lascaux in France and Altamira in Spain contain extraordinary prehistoric paintings. Ancient artworks have also been discovered on the Indonesian island of Sulawesi. Head, including images that rank among the oldest known examples of figurative cave art. The most fascinating detail is their location. Many paintings were not created near the cave entrance. Head, where people normally sheltered from the weather. They were placed deep underground, sometimes hundreds of meters from daylight. Reaching certain chambers required passing through narrow tunnels or crawling into enclosed spaces. Head. The artists carried stone lamps fueled by animal fat into complete darkness. They brought pigment and tools, selected a wall, and began creating images that people would still admire tens of thousands of years later. Head. Why would anyone devote so much energy to painting deep inside a cave? We cannot prove that cave art was produced specifically during rainy days, yet long periods of bad weather would have created valuable free time. Head. After every tool had been sharpened, every piece of clothing repaired, and every essential task completed, people could explore, experiment, and create. Head. Some of humanity's greatest prehistoric works appeared in the same caves where communities repeatedly gathered for shelter. This suggests an even greater possibility. Rain may not only have encouraged technology and art. Head, it may also have helped strengthen culture. Imagine between 15 and 30 people sharing a confined space for several days. They cannot hunt, travel, or gather food in the usual way. Head. They sit near the fire, repair equipment, watch the storm, and talk. During the day, conversations may have focused on immediate problems: food, water, territory, injuries, or the next hunt. Head. At night, the atmosphere around the fire changed. Anthropologist Polly Wiesner studied conversations among the Juhoansi people of southern Africa. She found that daytime discussions were often practical. Head. While nighttime conversations around the fire were far more likely to include stories, songs, traditions, and social knowledge. Firelight did more than illuminate faces. It created a shared space where people could listen. Head. Imagine, remember, and teach. The campfire may have been humanity's first great social network. Much of the information exchanged there was essential for survival: which plants were safe. Head. Where water could be found during the dry season, how a particular animal behaved, where suitable stone for tools was located, and which routes should be avoided. That was not meaningless conversation. Head. It was knowledge moving from one mind to another. Then there were stories, memories of past events, explanations of the natural world, and myths about why rain came from the sky. Head. Nearly every ancient culture developed stories connected to storms, floods, thunder, and changing seasons. Many of those stories were probably shaped while people sat together. Head. Watching the very events they were attempting to understand. Some oral traditions have survived for astonishing lengths of time. Head. Aboriginal Australian stories have been compared with ancient changes in coastlines and sea levels that occurred thousands of years ago. Such cultural memory can exist only when people repeatedly tell stories. Head. Teach younger generations and protect important knowledge from being forgotten. Rainy days were therefore not wasted days. They were transmission days. They gave skilled adults time to demonstrate techniques. Head. They allowed elders to teach the young. They helped groups repeat, correct, and preserve their collective memory. Yet rain was not always an enemy. Sometimes it created valuable opportunities. Head. After a storm, soft ground preserved deep and detailed tracks. A skilled tracker could identify which animals had passed, estimate how recently they had been there, determine their direction. Head. And sometimes judge how quickly they were moving. Some of the best tracking conditions began immediately after the rain stopped. Rain also provided drinking water. Natural depressions in stone collected fresh water near many prehistoric campsites. Head. Some may even have been modified to increase their capacity. The storm also changed the food available across the landscape. Mushrooms and edible plants appeared. Underground tubers became easier to dig from softened soil. Head. Insects emerged in large numbers. The food supply did not disappear, it temporarily transformed. Groups that understood this transformation possessed an enormous advantage. Termites are a clear example. Head. In tropical Africa, winged termites often swarm after rainfall. They are nutrient-rich, appear in huge numbers, and can be gathered without sophisticated weapons. Chimpanzees still take advantage of termite activity today. Head. And early humans likely recognized the same opportunity. So, what did ancient humans actually do when it rained all day? They protected the fire that kept their group alive. They produced the tools required for future hunts. Head. They repaired clothing, made needles, and twisted rope for shelters and equipment. They prepared pigments and created images in underground chambers. They improved their sleeping areas. Head. Taught valuable skills, and told stories capable of carrying knowledge across generations. Then, when the storm finally ended, they stepped outside onto soft ground covered with fresh tracks and returned to work. Head. Rain did not simply stop their progress. It gave them time to prepare for whatever came next. Every carefully shaped tool, repaired garment, length of rope, remembered story. Head. And painted cave wall grew from moments when people could not follow their normal routine. Their survival depended on what they created during those quiet hours beside the fire. Head. Ancient humans did not experience boredom in the same way many people do today. When a storm was pounding outside and the future of the group depended on what could be repaired, head, taught, or invented before the weather cleared, there was always meaningful work to perform. They did not merely wait, they became creative. And that creativity may be one of the most important reasons humanity is still here today. Head. If this story changed the way you think about rain, subscribe to Mr. Bip for more journeys into the hidden world of ancient humans. Share this video with someone who loves history. Head. And leave a comment telling us what you think you would have made while waiting beside an ancient fire.